ನಮಸ್ತೆ. ನಾನು ಡಿ.ಆರ್. ಮೋಹನ್ ಕುಮಾರ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಸಿದ್ಧಗಂಗಾ ಕಾಲೇಜು ಕೋಯೆಡ್ ಕಾಲೇಜ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಅರ್ಥಶಾಸ್ತ್ರ ವಿಭಾಗದ ಮುಖ್ಯಸ್ಥನಾಗಿ ಅಸೋಸಿಯೇಟ್ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ಕಾರ್ಯನಿರ್ವಹಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಕೋವಿಡ್ನ ಒಂದು ಸುರಕ್ಷತೆಯ ಶುಭಾಶಯಗಳನ್ನ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ, ಇಂಥ ಸಂದಿಗ್ಧ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಇವತ್ತು ಟೆಕ್ನಾಲಜಿ ಡೇ. ಸೊ ಟು ಇಯರ್ ಮಾರ್ಕ್ ದಟ್ ಅಕೇಶನ್, ಆ ಒಂದು ಟೆಕ್ನಾಲಜಿಯನ್ನ ಬಳಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೇಗೆ ನಾವು ನಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಸುಧಾರಣೆಯನ್ನ ತರಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯವಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಯತ್ನ ನಾನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ನಮ್ಮ ಕಾಲೇಜಿಯೇಟ್ ಕಮಿಷನರ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ಮಂತ್ರಿಗಳಿಂದ ಹಿಡಿದು ನಮಗೆಲ್ಲ ಟೆಕ್ನಾಲಜಿಯನ್ನ ಬಳಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ನಾವು ಸಂದಿಗ್ಧದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ ಕೆಲಸ ನಿರ್ವಹಿಸಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸೂಚನೆಗಳನ್ನ ನೀಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಅವರ ಆಸೆಗಳನ್ನ ಈಡೇರಿಸಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಇದು ಒಂದು ಸಣ್ಣ ಪ್ರಯತ್ನ. ಸ್ನೇಹಿತರೆ, ನನ್ನ ಸಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಎಕನಾಮಿಕ್ಸ್. ಮ್ಯಾಕ್ರೋ ಎಕನಾಮಿಕ್ಸ್, ದ ಪ್ರಿನ್ಸಿಪಲ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಮ್ಯಾಕ್ರೋ ಎಕನಾಮಿಕ್ಸ್ CBCS ಸಿಲೆಬಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತುಮಕೂರು ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಇದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ. ಈಗ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಫಾರ್ಚುನೇಟ್ಲಿ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಅಟ್ ದ ಫಾಗ್ ಎಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಸೆಮಿಸ್ಟರ್. ಏನ್ ಆಲ್ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಮುಗಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ, ಅಷ್ಟರಲ್ಲಿ ಇದು ಲಾಕ್ ಡೌನ್ ಬಂದಿದೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಬಹುತೇಕ ಸಿಲೆಬಸ್ ಮುಗಿಸೋದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಏನು ಸಮಸ್ಯೆ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಈಗಾಗಲೇ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಅಂತರ ಆಗಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಅವ್ರ ಸಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ನ ಹತ್ರ ಕರ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ರಿವಿಷನ್, ಈಗ ಪಾಠ ಮುಗಿಸಿರೋರು ರಿವಿಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ಅಪ್ಪಣೆಯನ್ನ ಕೊಡಿಸಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ನಾನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ 3 ಪ್ರಮುಖ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ಗಳ, ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ 2 ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ಗಳ ಒಂದು ರಿವಿಷನ್ ಪ್ರಯತ್ನಕ್ಕೆ ನಾನು ಕೈ ಹಾಕ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಈಗ ನನಗೆ ಈ ಟೆಕ್ನಾಲಜಿ ಅಂದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ನೆನಪಾಗ್ತದೆ. ನಮ್ಮ ಹುಡುಗನ SIT ನಲ್ಲಿ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಇನಾಗ್ರಲ್ ಡೇ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಡೇ ಒಂದು ಸೆಷನ್ ಯಾರೊಬ್ರು ರಿಸೋರ್ಸ್ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಸೈನ್ಸ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಗಿವನ್ ಅಸ್ nature has given us science, science has given us technology, technology has given us tools. So the tools had made our life comfortable, happier and convenient. So in that way, it's an attempt to prove that technology has made us our life comfortable and happier. Now coming to our main aspiration, revision of this macroeconomics. Now coming to this macroeconomics, there are 2 approaches in the study of economics. One is microeconomics and another one is macroeconomics. Macroeconomics is that branch of economics which deals with the economy as a whole. So it is the study of the bird's eye view of an economy. So when you see a cricket match, you see the camera will focus an individual player, and through satellite picture they will give you the entire picture of the stadium, all the audience and view of the surroundings. That's called bird's eye view, the total picture. Macroeconomics gives us the picture of economy in totality. It is also called aggregate economics because in macroeconomics we deals with aggregates such as national income, aggregate consumption, aggregate investment, total employment, total price situation, say inflation, deflation, etc. So therefore it is also called as aggregate economics. Now I would remember one quotation from Dudley Dillard in M.L. Seth's book Keynesian General Theory. He quote that the publication of the wealth of nations is a ringing challenge on mercantilism. The publication of Das Kapital is a searching criticism on capitalism, whereas the publication of the General Theory on employment, interest and money is a repudiation on the foundations on the classical thought. Now this statement remembers us the flow of Ganges. So in the flow of Ganges, you see many stages, many holy centers like Haridwar, Rishikesh, like that, and also many turning points in the flow of river. Similarly, in the flow of the knowledge of economics, in the flow of economics knowledge, you'll see many stages. The classicism, before that mercantilism, capitalism, then Keynesian revolution, then modern economics like that. So this statement remembers that. Now coming to the definition of macroeconomics, you see that McConnell defines the level of macroeconomics is concerned either with the economy as a whole or with the basic subdivisions such as government, household, business, which make up the economy. In short, macroeconomics examines the forest, not the trees. It gives us the bird's eye view of the economy. John Maynard Lord Keynes' famous work, The General Theory of Employment, Interest, and Money, published in 1936, is an outstanding example of macroeconomics. Friends, this general theory, Das Kapital, and the wealth of nations forms the different stages in the flow of the knowledge of economics, the growth of economic science. The wealth of nations, Adam Smith laid the foundation, then Das Kapital provided another ism, socialism, and then Keynes proved that so both socialism and capitalism, say public sector and private sector, can live together. And he also provided us the famous concept called compensatory finance, that is brought about revolutionary changes in public policy and economic thinking. And he proved that private sector and public sector live together. Public sector can work as compensatory to lift the private economy, which one depressed. Now that brought about revolutionary changes. That itself is called as Keynesian revolution. So that laid the foundation for the birth of macroeconomics. So then onwards we see the economic thinking, economic writing, making, considering the economy as a whole. So microeconomics, then we think about macroeconomics, studying economy in general in totality. Friends, so this is an introduction, my effort, just to bring to you how this macroeconomics came into being, how the knowledge evolution from stage to stage. Now, just I will explain you as a matter of fact for examination purpose. Now, I will give you the scope of macroeconomics. The area of study comes under macroeconomics. And one clue for you, just writing a syllabus itself, the scope of the subject. Now I'll just point out the main aspects come under the study of macroeconomics. You see, there is display of main points, main factors come under the study of macroeconomics. Theory of income and output and employment, economic growth models, monetary economics, business cycles, population studies, macro theory of distribution, interest rate theory, and macro equilibrium. So as a method of economic analysis, macroeconomics helps in these ways. Now, to understand the working of the economy means in the body of economic, how different cells work and how intercell relationship is established. Now, you just understand the impact of corona, how the entire world now totally affected. So individuals cannot live without total situation, total conditions. So macroeconomics importance can be understood. However, there is a saying in Kannada, Egante mean Urante. That means overall conditions influence our individual behavior. So therefore, overall economic conditions explain how an individual behaves in an economy. To understand working of the economy, it is very important. And now to guide economic policies. Economic policy comes to, there are different types of economic policy: trade policy, industrial policy, price policy, and so on. So in all these economic policies, to frame economic policies, to have programs for that, without knowing the overall situation, potentialities of the economy, so we cannot frame policies. Now for the government to frame economic policies, there is need of knowledge of macroeconomics, understanding the overall situation and the nature of working of the overall economy. Now in economic growth, so when we comes about economic growth, we think about economic planning, programs, models, strategies, and all that. And in our second year plan, we switch on to unbalanced growth, and then how we consider Mahalabi's model of both unbalanced growth, two-sector model. And here, to know the overall condition, so there is need of macroeconomics to know the potentialities, to have planned programs, implementations, and all that. And then, as I've already pointed out, individual behavior are conditioned by overall situations. Now, to understand the behavior of individuals, say individual consumer, an individual behavior, an individual household, how an individual consumer maximizes satisfaction, how an individual businessman maximizes profit, and how an individual household adjusts its income and expenditure and all that depends on the macroeconomic conditions. So this all highlights the importance, practical uses of macroeconomics. And similarly, we see some limitations, demerits in the study of macroeconomics, or using macroeconomics as a guide. When we say microeconomics, the assumption what holds good for an individual may also hold good for an entire economy, for all the individuals. Here also we make assumption what holds good for aggregates, overall situation, may also hold good for an individual units. It is a fallacy of composition. It cannot be so. For example, general wage cut may cause even further unemployment, but individually it's okay. And everybody's problem sometimes may not be an individual problem. And macroeconomics is also called aggregate economics. How we would get aggregates? Putting together micro units, micro statistics. If totally, I will give an example. In a situation, just imagine industrial prices have risen by 50%, and simultaneously, correspondingly, agricultural products price rose by 50%. Now there is changes in both sector, agriculture, industry. So in getting average in macroeconomics, so what we say, when you put 50 minus 50% price index and add 50%, and total picture says that there is no change in general price situation. Now sometimes this aggregation may mislead the things. It is misleading. And lastly, the problem of aggregation of homogeneous units. Aggregate situations are obtained through aggregates. Say, for example, national income, aggregation of price situations, etc. If all units are homogeneous in nature, similar, their aggregation can give us clear picture, correct idea. If they are diversified, dissimilar, no, their aggregation sometimes gives us false conclusions. So aggregation of homogeneous is okay, but aggregation of heterogeneous units gives us the wrong conclusion. It is dangerous. So these are all some of the limitations in the study of macroeconomics, so as a policy measure. And those who are dealing with these merits and demerits of macroeconomics may cover these some of the important topics. I'm not trying to go deep into the topics and our subject. Just give you the skeleton highlights of these merits and demerits of macroeconomics and nature and scope of macroeconomics. With this, I am going to put an into this topic: macroeconomics, nature, scope, importance, and limitation. And let me pass on to the another important topic in this first chapter, that is national income. Before that, there is also macroeconomic policy. Macroeconomic policy, general economic policy, uh, mainly include two. One is monetary policy, another is fiscal policy. And you can write objectives of macroeconomic policy, the same objectives for both monetary policy and fiscal policy. Monetary policy and fiscal policy are the two components of macroeconomic policy. Coming to objectives, the traditional objectives of monetary policy: full employment, price stability, economic growth, balance of payments equilibrium, population control, distributive justice. These are all the main goals or objectives of macroeconomic policy, and also the responsibilities of the government to achieve these things. And then coming to instrument of macroeconomic policy, I have already told you that monetary policy and fiscal policy are the two main instruments or part of macroeconomic policies. And monetary policy, it's also called central banking policy or trade policy, and one of the traditional macroeconomic policy. So before 1930, there was no role of fiscal policy, and monetary policy solely considered as macroeconomic policy, interest rate policy in achieving macroeconomic goals. There was no fiscal policy seriously before 1930s. Coming to the instruments of monetary policy, interest rate policy, which is also called bank rate policy. There is such an interlink between bank rate, that is central bank rate, and also the interest rate of the commercial banks. Through changing bank rate, the central bank tries to alter the lending rates of commercial bank. So it is called cheap rate policy or dearer money policy. Cheap rate policy represents reducing interest rate, making borrowing cheaper, capital cheaper. Dearer money policy means costlier, making interest rate uh, higher and borrowing become very costlier. So depending upon the situation, central bank can resort to change in these bank rate and interest rate policies. Inflation period, increasing bank rate, making borrowing costlier. Depression, deflation, recession, bringing down bank rate and also lowering interest rate. And OMO, open market operations, that is selling and buying of securities by the central bank directly in the open market. So selling of securities reduces the cash availability in the economy, and buying of the securities and bonds increases the cash availability. In this way, central bank tries to bring about the supply of cash directly in the economy. That is called open market operation. And CRR and SLR, another tool at the hand of central bank. CRR represent cash reserve ratio, the percentage of cash reserves to be maintained at the central bank by all the commercial banks. And SLR represent statutory liquidity ratio, that is compulsory investment of the commercial banks in governmental securities and bonds. Both these put together, it is called VRR, because it is subject to variable reserve ratio. Now the Reserve Bank can alter CRR from 3 to 15%, and even SLR also subject to change. That's why it is called VRR. These are all the three direct methods, quantitative methods. So in addition to this, there are many selective methods: fixing marginal requirement, that is percentage of loan to be given on securities, and then regulation of credit, cash reserve ratio, then altering direct cash availabilities, regulation of consumer credit, directives, and punitive actions, propaganda, etc. These are all economies like India. Direct methods are not so effective, and we suffer from the problem of stagflation, where where we see the existence of both inflation and unemployment together. In developed economies, if there is inflation, unemployment percentage will be lower, and if there is unemployment, inflation should be at a lower level. That's what Phillips curve expects. But unfortunately, in economies like India, we see both inflation and more unemployment. To solve such a situation, stagflation, and particularly even during inflation, there is two-way approach. On the one hand, we should increase supply condition, and another we should reduce unnecessary expenditure, unproductive expenditure in the economy. In that way, quantitative methods, bank rate policy, open market operations, CRR are not useful. Selective methods deliberately designed, evolved, and implemented to achieve both this price stability and economic growth. Friends, fiscal policy. So after 1930s, now there is more stress on fiscal policy to achieve macroeconomic goals like full employment, price stability, economic growth, and all that. So the main instrument at the hands of government, fiscal policy, fiscal tools refers to the budgetary tools at the hands of government, taxation policy or public revenue, public expenditure, public debt, deficit financing, and financial administration. So taxation, you know that. So during inflation, how can government achieve macroeconomic policy through inflation? During inflation, the policy should be government should tax more and spend less. And then during deflation, recession, the opposite situation, tax less and spend more. How can it be possible to do more expenditure with less taxation? No, there is another tool, deficit financing. Now, government can go for this deficit financing to achieve this more expenditure with lesser taxation. And again, public expenditure can be used as a tool to achieve macroeconomic objectives. And then public debt. So if the government impose more taxes, particularly in democracy, it cannot go against the wishes of the people. So instead of taxation, it can ask the people to give loan and repay back it with more money. Public debt use it in activizing the idle funds through incentives and all that, internal borrowings, public debt. Now, government can use all these to achieve macroeconomic objectives: taxation, public expenditure, public debt, deficit financing, and financial administration. Financial administration refers to, you see, during inflation, if uh, business classes try to exploit the situation, if they hoard the essential things, particularly food grains and all that, now government can send vigilance group. It can discord the illegal hoardings and all that, and it can also uh, put raid against the black money and all that, tax evasion and all that. Stringent economic policies, good administration, so comes under this financial administration. So these are all the various tools of the government, budgetary tools. We call it as fiscal policy. It is policy of the government, budgetary policies.